All right, so today we'll see the question, topic around the data CDTs, and we'll see that how do we make a connection with the data store, and how do we, create an entity for it. Okay, so let's quickly share my screen. Okay, you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so imagine this particular box, this entire box is our Appian environment. Okay, and then we have another box which is nothing but the cloud database. Okay, this is nothing but the uh, cloud database, which is a part of Appian itself, and this is the Appian designer. Okay, I will say Appian designer, where we do all those development, where we create the CDTs and rules and everything, right, in the applications. And then we have, this is our cloud database. Okay, then how do we make a connection in between these two by using a CDT? So yesterday we created a table called LMS underscore employees, right? This is a table that we created in the table database LMS employee, and then we also created a CDT called LMS employees, right? So this CDT, how it was created? It was created by the option data store entity with that, that with using the third option, using table, database, or view, right? So inside that, we have seen that into the CDT XST file, we have seen that it actually captures the information of the table as well. What's the name of the table and what are the attributes? We also see that JP annotations, everything, right? So this is the CDT that we have created in Appian Designer, and this is a table that we have created into the into the database. Now, how it's a connection is there, but it's not linked to each other, right? So we need to link it to each other so that it can read and write the information based on these things. And why do we need that? First of all, we need this linking to be done. Why? Because if you want to read an information, let's say I'm going to read an information from a particular table, and that table has 10 columns, right? So the we should have something to capture that value, right? Let's say I'm going to return 10 rows or 20 rows. So I should have a variable which is same type of the table structure so that it can hold the same values, right? So we can read it and we can capture it in some variable. So that's the reason we will create a CDT. Now, if you want to write the information to the database, again, we should have something, data to be structured in a such a way that it can write the data to the particular database table. If we cannot structure it, it will be very difficult and it's not possible to write the data. I mean, it's possible, but we have to do lots of work around. But at a time, we cannot write the data, right? So to read the data and to write the data to the database table, we should have a similar variable of the table structure. So that's the reason we create the CDTs, okay, to make our work easier. Now, talk about the linking. How do we link it? In Appian, we also have seen that one object called data store, right? So we create a data store, and inside the data store, we will create an entities, right? So what we will do, whenever we create a data store, it will ask you to add entities. Now let's say I'm going to add an entity with the name of LMS employee. You can even leave the name as the same as your CAT or table. And if you want, you can also add an entity keyword to here just to identify that, okay, this is an entity. Now, how this mapping is being done? So this, whenever you create this entity, right, it will require to be created in two things. First, it will require the CDT type, which CDT you want to create. So it will be require two things. What is the CDT that you want to add, and give the name. So whenever you give the name, and just because this CDT is internally linked to this particular table, Appian will understand that which table it has to connect. Okay, so whenever we create an entity, it will actually create this entity and make a connection with this particular table as well. And why it will do that? Because in the CDT XST file, we have this mapping provided, as we have created the CDT by using the third option, right? So this is how this mapping is done. We create a table, we create a CDT based on this table, and then when we create an entity, we need to provide the CDT type and the name of that entity. When we do the addition, it will be able to understand. Now, when we create this data store, it will also ask you that which database you want to connect. Now, let's say I would like to connect to the Appian MariaDB. So this entire section that you're seeing is this particular section is a data store. Okay, so this in data store will get connected to this particular MariaDB, right? And then from this one, whenever, so data store is is for like which database you want to connect. Now let's say in your Appian you also have a Oracle database. So for that we need to create a different data store. Okay, let's say we create one more data store, and then this will be get connected to Oracle. So this is a one data store. This is another data store. So this is one data store will be only able to connect with one database, right? It cannot connect multiple database to one data store. Yes, in one data store you can have multiple entities with the same database here, but it is not possible that you can also connect this data store to this table, this database, and connect to this database. This is not possible. So one data store is for one database. Okay, is that clear? Any confusion?
So the RMP employee entity
Mhm.
is also connecting to the same database. Is that how it
So
is?
if yes, I mean, suppose this was an example from the previous training. So I'm saying that if suppose this table is also available to this particular database, then we can have this entity as well. But for each separate application, we create a separate data stores.
Okay.
Like
Here entity means it is like a data store. What does an entity mean here?
entity represent the mapping of each table with each table. So one data store can have multiple entities,
Okay.
and all the entity will represent a connection between the table and the CDT.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll just give you the quickly we can connect and we will able to understand that how it's actually happening. Is this
Okay.
concept is clear now? Are you able to connect how it's internally mapping it?
And in the data store, what does it store actually? Is it again you
It's
have a
a data
database?
store will have the list of entities.
Is
First of
that
all, data store will tell you that which database it is connected.
Okay, it has
Okay,
a map. It has the connection string there. Okay.
yes, it has a connection sticks. Okay, now let me share my screen with the Appian. There you will be able to understand. Okay, okay, so we have created this CDT. Employee is ready, and we have seen the XST file that internally it is having the details of the table, which table it has been connected, right? Now let's go and create a data store. So this is the data store we are going to create. Data type is already there. I'll just keep the name as DS. So I'll say this data store has a connection with Appian Cloud Database. Now you can see here it is saying the data source. What is the data source? The data source is the JDBC Appian Tomcat. Now, if you are using an Oracle database or SQL Server or any other database, then that will listed here. Once we add that to the admin console, all will start listing here. Now here we are deciding that this particular data store where we want to connect. Okay, yeah, let me quickly save a whole screen. Okay, so if you see this Excel sheet, so we are deciding this particular data store is going to connect with in which database, right? So this is what we are doing it here. So we are saying that this LMS data store is going to connect with the data source, this Appian Tomcat, which is the cloud database. Clear? You understand that? If let's say if we have added the Oracle or some other database into the admin console, then that will listed here. Now let's say if I go and create the or select the Oracle database data source here, then what will happen? We need to create another database which will be get connected to this Oracle data store, which to the Oracle, right? But at one time you can have only one mapping. One data store cannot be connected with the multiple data sources. Is that clear?
Okay.
So I'll say create. Once we do create, now you see that this data store has been created. The data source is the cloud database. Then it says entities. Please add the entities. So I'm click on add entity and give the name as LMS underscore employee and underscore entity. Once we give the name of this entity, it will say that what is the type of your entity. Now here we need to select LMS underscore employees. Okay, this is the CDT that we have created. Once we select this and then click on save. Once we save this, then this mapping is done. It says that okay, we have created this employees entity and the type is LMS employee. If you go to the Excel sheet, we have created this entity name. This is the name of the entity and it is mapped with the particular CDT type. And as this CDT has having the internal configuration into the XST file with this table, so now this entity will get connected to this particular table here. Now if I go, what we need to do is that we need to verify this. We click on verify and it says that entity mapping verified. It means the connection has been successfully established. Now we can save and publish the data source. Once we save and publish, now this entity is available to the system to read, to perform the read and write operation with the database. Okay, is that clear now? What's data source, data store and data store entity?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Okay. Okay. Anyone others? Is that clear? One of the
Yeah, sorry, can you please repeat what is the MariaDB? I joined late to the meeting.
the cloud database
What
that we are
is,
using, right? The Appian database that we are
okay,
using is the
okay,
MariaDB.
okay.
This is
Is
the
it the default DB that is provided by the
yes, this
Appian?
is the default DB the database which is provided by the Appian. So this is MariaDB.
Okay. And each data source has a number of entities, right?
Data stores, source not data
Data
store.
store.
Huh.
Ah,
It can have a number of entities.
and number of
And all the
in each
entities,
entity, and each
all entities,
entity has different tables, right?
yes, each entity will represent one table, and all the
So
tables will be
all,
from the same database.
okay, yeah, okay. And if we add any external server, like you said, it will be only connected to a single DB. It's
Yes,
either Tomcat or the external thing, right?
correct. Yes, at a time it can be connected only
Oh,
with
yeah.
one data source.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Now let's say I would like to know we have created the one table, right? The table that we have created is LMS employee. We have decided to have a table called address as well. Each employee can have one address, right? How do we do that? So who can guide me? So right now we have LMS underscore employee table, right? Which has certain two information we have given here. I also need to create a new table. So how do I do that? Go ahead, guys. Where do I go to create a new table?
You can probably click on the new just below tables
You
Okay.
you can click on new and create it. Yeah.
So I'll
LMS
say LMS
address.
address. I would require address ID, which is going to be a number integer, and it is going to be I'll say auto increment
Yep.
primary key, and then we can have
Employee
employee ID, right?
integer.
It can be null, so I'll just check the null checkbox. We can have city, It's going to be type of varchar. Let's say I'll put 50 characters long. It can be null initially. We can have state. It's going to be varchar. We can have 50 characters long. It can be null. I would like to add few more columns. Then what do I need to do?
You should click on add, and you should add number of columns that you need to add.
Okay, so I'll say I would require state a pin, country, and what else?
Zip code. Zip code.
Yeah, that's a pin code. Okay, zip code, country, and a state three, and then exactly four more. So I'll say four more.
Stuff.
So I will have street. It is going to be varchar. Let's say I'm going to allow them to have 100 characters long. Can be null. We can have zip code. It can be varchar. I'll put 10 characters long. It can be null. Then we will have country. It's a varchar. Let's say 50 characters long, and then is active. It's going to be tiny int. Can be null. Okay, so if you would like to keep the SQL file, click on the preview SQL. It will generate the file for you. You can copy and keep it, right? We'll check everything looks fine. Primary key is there, and we can click on the save. Okay, so you see that this particular mapping table has been created. Now we can see the primary key. Okay, employee ID is going to be the foreign key, right? So how do we add the foreign key? Okay, so let me first of all type the name of the table here. LMS address. So table is available now. If you it doesn't have any data, so it's blank. If you go to the structure, we can see that the columns are created. Now we need to add the mapping with the employee ID because this is going to be a foreign key. So in the table structure, when you click on the structure, there are two tabs: table structure and relation view. Go to the relation view, give the constraint name. Let's say I'm going to give the foreign key fk underscore empid. Okay, I will add this column on my employee ID column from the Appian same database. The table I'm going to select here is LMS LMS employees, and it will automatically take the primary key of this particular table, right? So if you click on, if you want to take the SQL file, preview the SQL, you can copy this alter table statement, close it, and then click on save. Now if you go to the structure, you will see that this foreign key has been added here, right? So now we have given this foreign key relationship with this particular table. Now let's go and add certain data to it. Click on the insert. We have two employees, so let's try to have certain. You see this for this employee ID, now it is giving me the drop down. Why it is giving the drop down? Because it is internally linked with the foreign key, so that if you click here, it will say these are the users are available to the system. Okay, now let's say I'll put it some details here. Culture Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. I don't know. Let's say. Okay, and for Manish also we'll put um, okay. I'll just simply say go. So now two rows has been inserted here, and then you can see this employee ID is now with the link because this is a foreign key. If you click on it, it will redirect to you the particular data that we have into this particular table. Okay. Any question? How do we create tables and how do we add a foreign key relationship here?
No, no.
Okay. So we have added this middle name in after later we to check how do we add this. Let me put some value to it. Okay. All right. So this is how we add a foreign key. Now, once the CT is created, what is the next step we do?
We generate the
Sorry, once the table is created, we
we
can create
generate
a CDT, right?
the file, XST file, and create the
Yeah, I
series.
mean yeah. So if you want to create a data type, what is the best way to create this data type? If you want to create from the table,
Create the database table or view. Yeah.
okay,
Or
I'll
view.
select the data source. Yeah, I can select the table here, LMS underscore address. Okay, I'll say continue. I'll say this CDT is it always a best practice to provide some description.
So Harsha, this is all going to be UI based when we create tables and all. Is this how we do it, or is it like
Yeah, this is how we do it.
okay?
Okay, now we did this one, or everything is fine. Now we can see, now you see this one. There is a initially we remove this checkbox, right? Because the data store was not created. Now you can see that Appian is also giving you the privileges that you do not have to do it manually. Just check this checkbox. It will say that okay, under your application there is a one data store is available, LMSDS, right? This is the data source that we have created, LMSDS, isn't it? So this is already available there. So it's saying that okay, if you want to create an entity, I can see that one data store is available for under your application. What is the name you want to put? Now either if you want, you can go with the same name, or you can simply add entity. If you do like that, okay, and hit create. Once we do this, now this CDT has been created, right? This is the CDT that we created. The CDT has been created. Now if you go here, you'll see that the data store has been also updated. Now if you click on the data store, you will see that one more entity has been added. So we didn't add it manually. We did it while creating the CDT itself. So you check the checkbox and then it will create an entity for you. If you click on the verify, it says that verify mapping successfully. You can click on save and publish. If you don't even do that, it's already do that, but just to check we did it. Now, any question here, guys? How do we create this entity? So now this particular data store has been connected with two entities. If you go to our Excel sheet, oh, it's not shared. Let me share back. If you go here, now what we did, we created one more CDT. So first of all, we created a table, LMS address. We created this table. We created this CDT now, and then we created an entity while creating the CDT itself. And then we established this connection. So it's connected from here, and this now represent connection with this particular table, right? So one data store is now having multiple entities, and each represent connection with one table. Is that clear now? How we add an entities?
Yep.
Cool. Now, small change. Let me open both of the CDTs. We have given one column called is active as true, right? It says that by default it takes number integer, but it should be in Appian. We can convert this to Boolean. We can select as a Boolean and click on the save changes. Once you click on the save changes after making any change, it will try to run and then say that okay, it's everything looks okay or not with the data connection that we have created. Even for the address also, we can go and select for. So in database we have selected tiny in Appian we should be a Boolean. It's always a best practice to do that. So it can work with the 0 and 1s. Save the changes. Once we do the save the changes, we can open the data store and we can try to verify again. It says entity mapping is verified successfully. It's a green. It means the whatever changes we made is okay to have. I mean, there's no issues. Save and publish. Once we do that, our data store is added, our CDT is ready, our both the CDT is ready and data store is ready. Any question, any clarification is required? Is that understood that how do we map the connection string with the database?
So that we have to do that on every time you make any
If
DDL
you
change.
have a boolean, a tiny int in the database, we need to do that. You remember, right? While creating the CDT, it gives you the option to change the name. There also we can change it, but there for integer field they don't give the option. So that's the reason we need to, after publishing that, I mean saving that, we need to do that. Yeah, for tiny int at least.
And one more question, fundamentally, right? So the relationship that you have is active. You already have that on the employee table, right? Why do you need that on the address table?
Let's say employee changes their address, and then some other address. So in IT or any other organization, right? The permanent delete is not a good option to have it, right? You may require the data after some point of time. Yes, there are certain policies where companies say that, okay, I'll keep the information up to 7 years, and after that I will delete it.
Okay,
Now,
so
if they
every
delete it
time
immediately,
then employee change an address, so the other old one will be 0 and this one will be 1.
exactly, yeah, the other one will become 0 and a new one will become as a 1.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, now it's time to understand how do we bring the information back from the table to the Appian designer, because we will require a search screen, search UI for whom we want to apply the leave. If I'm a manager, I could go for myself, or I could go for applying leave on behalf of someone, right? So in that case, we need to search for a customer. So if that's the case, we would require a search screen. In the search screen, if we pass the name of a user or employee, we need to get the entire details of that particular user, right? So we will require that query to create, which will query the data from the database and bring the information up. So we'll now see how the query entity works. Okay. All right. So to bring the information from the database in Appian, we need to create a rule, and that rule will be used to bring the information. And for that, we will require a function called query entity. A query entity function is a function which is used to bring the information from the database, where you can also apply multiple filters, like where the name is matches or not, or you would like to bring all the information, or you'd like to bring few columns instead of having all the columns. All those things we can configure in the query entity rule. So let's go and start creating that rule. So we'll go to the new and we'll say an expression rule. So now expression rule comes into the picture, where it says that, okay, this is going to be a rule which is going to fetch the information from the database. I'll say give the name as get employee data. So this rule is used to fetch the data from LMS employees table. Okay, I'll say create. So this is the rule that we have created. It's a blank rule for now. Okay, as I said, the function name that we will require is called query entity. You do not need to remember what is the prefix I'm going to use. Just type query entity. It will come, just hit tab. It says that, okay, a bank query entity. So this is a function which is used to bring the information, from the database. Now, what are the things it will require? There are three things. You can see that there are three parameters with these functions: entity, query, and fetch total count. Entity is the entity that we had just created for both of the tables. We created for the employees and we created for the address as well, right? So that is the entity it required here. And it says query, what do you want to query? And fetch total count is a boolean, do you want a total count or not? Okay, so now if I say entity, this is the first parameter that we need to use, entity. What is the name of the entity here? We need to be query the data from the this particular table, right? LMS employee underscore entity. This is the name, right? Now if I go here and say LMS underscore employee underscore entity. Will this work? Does it, will this function will understand that which entity I need to hit?
We need the other ones as well, right?
Yeah, we need the other ones as well, but here if you see the description of this query entity function, it says that entity, and in the bracket it has given the type as data store entity, right?
Oh no,
But
I think you should give the
but
data store as well.
yeah, but what we have given here is a normal text, right? So this will not understand that what entity you are trying to provide here, because the input type is the data store entity. Okay, now here it's the text. So how do we refer this entity as an entity type? So if you remember, we talked about the constant initially, and we said that if you want to refer any object of an Appian of a particular type, we need to create a constant for it. So we'll go and create a constant. And what is the best, I mean, not the best practice, what is the pattern that Appian follows for the constant name? Everything should be in capital. The name should be in the capital. So I'm going to provide the LMS. It is taking the prefix. Now it's going to be data store entity. I'll say LMS underscore DSE. It is going data store entity, and then entity it's going to be employee, right? So this is going to be entity of the employee. So I'm given the name as LMS DSE underscore employee. So this constant will hold the data store entity for LMS underscore employee table. Okay, and here the type should be data store entity. Once we select that, it will say, okay, you have selected the data store entity type. Which data store? So data store we need to select. We have LMS data store. So I'll just select the LMS data store. And then if you click here, it will list all the entity that it has. It has two entities, employees and an address. We would require to have the employee entity and say, copy the name and say create. Once we do that, a constant has been created with the mapping of the data store entity is the type of data store entity. Now in the function that we are using here, we need to refer that one. And to refer the constant, we need to provide the prefix as CONS bang and then name of the constant. Once we do that, now this is a proper. This function will understand that this is the entity we need to hit here, and as this is the type of data store entity. Is that clear? Do you understand the
Yes,
use of
yes.
constant? Yeah.
So will we end up creating constants for every table?
Every entity. Yes, that's a good practice to have it, because you will be required to this constant most of the places. So you need to create this constant. Even if you want to write the data, we can make use of the same constant, because there also you need to provide the entity, which entity you want to write the data. So there also we will make use of this constant.
So you create a table, you create a CDT, you create an entity, then you create a constant. So 4 steps for the create a table.
Yeah. If you
Okay.
want to perform the read and write operation with that table.
Okay.
Yeah. The second parameter is called query. If you don't remember, no worries. It says that query, the query to be executed created using a bank query function. So it's simply saying that we need a bank query function. So I'll just type it here, a bank query function. Now in the a bank query function, what are things we can perform? We can have selection, aggregation, logical expression, filters, and paging info. The mandatory parameter is called paging info, which is it will require. A paging info is an information of the data, how much data you would like to bring from database to Appian, and in which order you want to bring it. So for that, we will require paging info function, and that is called a bank paging info. That's the name itself for the function. And you can say that it says start index. So I'll just say start index. When from where index, which index you want to bring the data. So I would like to bring the data from the first index, and then it says a batch size. Now the batch size, if you would like to bring the entire information, you don't know the count, right? So that's the reason you need to put -1. If you put -1, it means that you want to bring all the information from the database. Okay. Now if you would like to have some sorting information as well, you can provide. So we can have sort, and for that we have another function called a bank sort info, which says that if you would like to sort the data, you would like to sort in which order. So it says field, which field you would like to sort. The field name should be the same as to your CDT name. If you go to the open a CDT employee, let's say you want to bring the information on the sorting order based on the employee ID. So I'll say employee ID, and then it has ascending true or false. So ascending, I'll say, let's say true. Okay. So this is the basic query entity rule is created. We do not have to do anything else now. If you would like to bring all the information, you just click on the test tool. You see that how many information we have? We have 2 count, right? 2 information is there into database. We are able to bring these 2 information from the database. All the parameter activity and columns are available now. Identifiers are given. So the question they ask, what is the output of a query entity function? So the output of a query entity function is nothing but a data subset, because it doesn't give you only the data. It is a form of a data subset where you have start index, paging informations, whatever user has provided, and then it also has a total count of the data. It has a data which is a list of the dictionaries, and then it also has identifiers. Okay, is this clear how we how everything is working here, how we are bringing this information, how this understood that from which table I need to bring the information? Any question, confusion?
Could you repeat this one more time, starting from paging information?
So the paging information is required, like, to understand how much data you want to bring and from which index you want to bring and which order you want to bring the data. So paging information, the first is a start index. I would like to bring the information from the first index, and I would like to batch size as given -1. It means that I would like to return entire information. And sorting info, using a sort info function which has 2 parameters, field and ascending. So I say that I would like to field on the employee ID and ascending true. So you see that the first one, 1 and 2 it is given. If I go and put as a false, what could be the output?
Ascending false is like 2 and 1 maybe.
So we'll get second result first and then the first result. Right? Now if I go here and say 1, 1, then what could be the output?
You'll only get one. Only
So
the
we'll
first.
get only the first result, whatever the matching it matches here. Now if I make this true, then you see the result will get changed. Why? Because this was ascending true now. If I do like that, then we'll get the first result. So based on our query, whatever we are performing here, we'll get the data from the system. Okay. If you'd like to return the whole result, we just need to do -1.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Anyone else and has any questions, any doubt?
Yeah, so the batch size should be -1 at all times, right?
No. Now imagine you are having millions of record. If you do put -1, you think millions of record will going to become there, right? At one time in one call, it will increase the load on the system and it may break down the system. So that's the reason
Okay.
we have given this one. How wisely you would like to call? You would like to call the data into the in the batches. Like first, let's say if you have 1,000 records, first time I would like to have 1 to 100, then 101 to 200, 201 to 300, right? 301 to 400.
Yeah.
So you will require based on your scenario. So you can't put -1 all the time.
Okay. It depends upon the
Your
requirement, right?
requirement. Yes.
Okay. So, what does actually page info mean? Is it the information that is available in the table, or
No, no, no. It's not available. You are instructing the query. you are modifying. See, if
Okay.
you do the query into database, how you do that? Select star from this particular table.
Data table,
Where,
table name, and
yeah,
yeah, yes.
and then you also put the where clause, right? Where this is equal to this and all that, and order by this thing. That's the query info. You also put the limit, right? Limit. You say that limit is 200, then you will get only 200 results. So that's all the paging info is doing from the Appian side to
Okay.
optimize your query filter, like how much data you want.
Oh, and the sort function that we use is depends upon the requirement, right? You need not to
Yeah,
apply
I mean,
each time when you
you
create a
need
query
not to.
function.
Fine, it doesn't break. It's not mandatory. If I go here and then say test rule, you don't need to do that.
Okay. So by irrespective, if we do not use the sort function, will the data that appears will be in a sequential manner, or if by creating a record, if you have 10 records, will it be automatically sorted if not, if we do not proceed with the sort function?
Yeah, see, if I do like this, then it will give the default order, whatever you have the data in order.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Right.
Harsha,
Yeah.
in order to get the test output as in batches, in the start index and in the batch size, let's just say if I want 1 to 100 to be populated in one go,
Mhm.
so how would I represent in that in start index and in batch size? That would be 1 to slash 100, or batch size would be minus
Yeah.
100, and that would give me the
Now,
test result of 1 to 100.
if we need to do like this, 1 to 100, then if there are 100 records, it will
Okay,
say if there are 1,000, then we have to look do like this.
okay, okay, got that one.
And
Thank
then
you.
if you want from 101 to 2, this should be 200,
Sure. Thank you.
right? This is how we do.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you would like to work with only the data, you don't need this other information. Just put dot data at the end of the query entity. Click on the test rule. You will see that only the data is there now. It is saying that list of dictionaries 2 items. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Cool. All right. Now it's not like we will require data only based on the count, how much data we want, how much in the sorting order. We also like to have the data information, like which data I would like to have. Like I want to filter based on the first name. I would like to filter based on the last name. There's multiple conditions could be there. I would like to filter on the email address as well. We can search an employee with the email address as well, right? So how do we apply this thing? So we have a under the ABank query function, just like the way we have used the paging info, we also have a parameter called filter. Now let's say I go and I'll apply filter. So the filter, if you don't remember the function, you can simply go to the description. You will say that a single condition to apply to the query data before any grouping or aggregation is created with ABank query filter. So I'll just say ABank query filter. Okay, and ABank query filter required certain operation parameters, which is like field, on which field you would like to apply the filter. So let's say I would like to apply the filter on first name. This name, the name that we are providing here, should be same as your CDT parameter name, because that's how we are getting the output in that particular form. Right. So this is the first name. This should be same. And what operator you would like to apply. So let's say I would like to apply the operator is equal to. Equal to, it means that exact match. If you would like to know what are the operators are available, you can see here. These are the operators that is available. And then what is the value you want to apply? Let's say I would like to apply the value here called Sumit. And then yeah, we have another apply when it is conditionally, do you like to put this condition filter or not, that we can put it. Now if I click on the test rule, what will happen?
Only the Sumit, the first name, people with first name of Sumit will be displayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Record
Even we have given the batch size as -1, but as because we have applied this filter, it's saying that okay, wherever the first name Sumit will match, it will return. Now imagine there is one more record, with the first name as a Sumit. In that case, it will return both of the result, right?
two records.
Because
Yeah,
two
yeah.
records. Yeah. So is this rule is dynamic? What is the demerit of this rule as for the current code?
Sorry, didn't get the question, Harsha.
So is this rule is dynamic in nature or not?
Uh, yeah,
Will
it
it
is that.
work for Manish? Will it work for other names?
No, no, it will not. So the value here is a hard-coded value, right? So you need to
It's a
update.
hard-coded value, right? So what we can do to make it dynamic?
Uh, yeah, we have some function there that we can add. Uh,
No, how would you understand the function? What name I would like to call this? How this rule will understand that this should be apply the filter on the first name based on what name I would like to add. Yesterday we created one rule, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what we did, we created a rule input. If we create a rule input, it will make it dynamic. I'll just go and click one more rule input here and I'll say that first name, and I'll type the type. This could be anything. I mean, this doesn't require to be matched with the here, but it can be anything. I'll just say the text. Now you see this one, this rule input has been get created here. Now instead of this Sumit hard-coded value, we can refer this rule input. And how do I refer the rule input? What is the prefix?
Test input. T I
RI. Rule
R
input RI,
I.
short name. Yeah. Now if I pass Sumit here, I'll get Sumit. If I pass Manish, I'll get a result of Manish. Now this rule is, let's say I try with the lowercase. Still I'm getting it, right? Why I'm getting this with the lowercase? Because in database it works with the without, I mean, it is not case sensitivity because this query is happening to the database, so it's not on the case sensitivity. It's not there. Okay. So now this will become dynamic in the nature. If you would like to call for Manish or Sumit or any other name, it will work. If I pass some other name here and try to bring the information, it says that 0 items. It doesn't matches anywhere. Okay. Understood?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Now, let's say there could be a scenario where I don't remember the full name. I don't remember the entire name. What was the name? I just say, okay, it was something SUM. I don't know what is that, IT, AT, or whatever is there, right? So, will this work? If I try to click on test rule, will I get the result?
I
No,
mean,
no, I guess.
We don't get the
Yes.
result. Why? Because equal operator is being applied here, and meaning of the equal operator is exact match. Now, what are the options we have?
Okay.
Let's say we can say includes, right? In database we have like operator, the same thing we have as an includes. If you say like this and say test rule, now we get where the SUM is matching in the first name, it is getting you the result. Okay. Now let's say
Okay.
I have I'm just trying to search with the I and click on test rule. I get both the result. Why?
you have
Because
I.
it has the both names has I in it.
Both name has I in it. Understood? Cool. Now this filter, this filter will, as the description says, that a single condition to apply, right? It can only apply single condition. Now I would like to have more than one condition. Then how it will work? So for that, we need to use logical expressions. Another parameter of this query, logical expressions. And a logical expression uses a function called abang query logical expression. You do not have to remember this. You just go to this parameter and it will give you the name of the function, what is required. Now inside that, we needed to apply the filters. It says operators, filters we can have. So let's say I would like to have operators. So which operator you would like to add between your filters? So let's say I would like to add AND operator. And then it has filters. Now list of filters we can add. We can have one filter like this. We can simply copy this and put it here and then remove this. This filter is not going to work for now because I would like to have multiple filters. So I just remove the previous one. Now this will still work because it's the same thing. If I click on the test tool, I get the same result. If I put Sumit here, I'll get the same. So it's just gonna work. It's just we are allowing the system to add multiple filters. Now I would like to have the query filter based on the first name and then last name as well. So I'll just copy and paste this code, and here I'll say last name, right? And let's say we need to create one more rule input here because we would like to make it as a dynamic and put it
Yes.
text here, and then this one will refer to the last name. Now you see one more parameter has been created. Now if I go and say test tool, it is breaking. Why? Because we are not provided the value for the last name. So that's the reason it's saying that, if you are going to use certain operators, it should have some values to be compared. So for that, if you don't want to get this message, we can use the apply when parameter. So we can say apply when it should be applied if the last name is not null or empty. So I'll say is not null or empty. What is not null or empty? RI bank last name. If this last name is not null or empty, then only apply this filter. Same way we can put it here as well. Apply when is not null or empty. What is not null or empty? RI bank first name. Right now, if I click on the trace tool, it will still work. Right, it will return you the data. If I don't provide any of the filters, it will get all the results. Now, is this clear? How we apply the two filters here by using the logical expression?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, what is the meaning of this operator? And
It's
in,
either it's both the records.
let's say
It's either
as
first name and
uh,
last name.
I'll get Sumit and then last name is a Kumar. This is a result. Okay. These are the two results, and the query that I'm providing is like this. So what do you say? How many results I'll get?
Only one, I guess.
Anyone else?
I think you'll get both because it's AND, right? Irrespective of whatever it is, I think it's going to give everything.
It's an and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember about the and operator, how it works.
Oh, okay.
What is the
So
property of and
if the
operator? You might have learned in the college. True, false, false, or what happens? True, false, false, true, 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 false, false. Right?
all the four combinations, yeah, yeah.
So what happens with the for and? If I click on the trace tool, you won't get any result. Why you are not getting any result? Because the operator is and. It means both should be true. It says that where the first name is equal to Samir, okay, it matches something, and it says that last name is equal to Kumar, which is not matching here because the last name for Sumit is called Pandit. So that's the reason it is not returning you any result because both is not available at one place. We do not have any record where the name first name is for Sumit and last name is Kumar. Got it? Now
Okay.
if I just change to this and to or, then what will happen?
I think either with the starting name of Sumit or the last name with Kumar, either one might execute.
So it will return both of them. Why? Because both
Both
condition
of them.
matches. Sumit is also
Yeah.
available, or because it's an or condition, that then Kumar is also available. So both of them are true. So both results will return here. Okay. Now if I go and change this to Pandit, then it will be only restricted to the one result,
One.
but both are matching. So understand this use of or and here.
So only these are the two operators that we'll be using, or do you have
Here
any?
you can see
XOR
and,
as well.
or, and all, and the and all value is only valid when filtering on one to many record relationships. So basically and or are the one that we are using most of the time.
Or do we use XOR as well, or not?
No, no, not here.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's
Okay.
here. It's
Thank
given here. Okay. And then is that
you.
clear
Okay.
for everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Anil, Ramesh,
Yeah, it's clear.
Yep.
cool. All right then. Let's stop here.